As you settle into your space, just know that you're in good company. I'm here with you, a friendly voice to help you unwind. Let's take a deep, calming breath. And let go of the day. Doesn't that feel better? Feel the quiet embrace you and let yourself drift into a place where stories come alive, where the ordinary becomes mysterious, and the unknown feels a little more like home. Whether you're here to relax, escape, or simply let your mind wander, I invite you to get comfortable. Let the gentle whispers of tonight's journey guide you as together we step into a world just beyond the edge of familiarity. Are you ready? Good, then let's begin. The port of Salem, once alive with the daily bustle of ships and the raucous laughter of sailors, now lies in dreadful silence. The fever has come, an invisible and merciless killer that sweeps through homes and alleyways, taking men, women, and children alike without warning. No one knows where it came from, only that it spreads as swiftly as a whisper, and leaves only grief in its wake. Streets once crowded with merchants and townsfolk are now quiet, save for the occasional tolling of bells, marking another loss. People speak in hushed tones, fearful that the very air they breathe might carry the sickness. Desperation has sunk deep into Salem's heart. Rumors flutter through the town like falling leaves. Whispers of an ancient remedy, an herb with powers to heal even the gravest afflictions. It's said to grow on the Isle of Saint Elara, a place only known in tales, having been passed between sailors in the dim glow of tavern fires. Many dismiss it as mere legend, but in these dark days, even the faintest hope becomes a beacon. If you enjoyed this story, please feel free to give me a like and to subscribe so I can help you again. Captain Elias Thatcher, a man of the sea and well known in Salem, has heard these tales before. He remembers them from his younger days, stories of strange lands whispered by old hands who claimed to have seen places beyond the reach of any map. But what they don't know is that Captain Thatcher himself once set foot on St. Elara many years ago as a young midshipman. He and a handful of survivors had has dimmed with age. He remembers the calm it brought to his comrades' injuries. The fever's relentless toll on Salem has stirred something deep within him, a resolve born from that long-buried memory. Though he has sailed many seas since then, he knows he must return to St. Elara, for perhaps within that cursed isle lies Salem's only hope. If he can find the herb, he may yet save his town. With a small trusted crew and supplies enough for the unknown journey, Captain Thatcher sets sail under the guise of an ordinary voyage, careful to keep the true purpose hidden. He knows that many would call him a fool, or worse, a madman. But as he watches the last flickers of Salem fade into the horizon, he feels the weight of his secret and the silent promise he's made to those he's left behind. Day 1. The first light of dawn found us already underway, sails billowing with a brisk westerly wind. The ship cut through the morning mist with ease, the calm sea mirroring the pale light above. I stood at the helm, feeling the familiar pull of the open ocean, a vast, endless horizon that has been both my livelihood and my escape. Today, however, the sea holds a different promise, one laden with secrets and a burden only I know. I've told the crew we are bound for a distant trading port, a voyage no different from the ones we've taken many times before. But even as they set about their duties, I see the uncertainty in their eyes, each of them sensing something unspoken in the air. They are seasoned men, used to the sea's whims and mysteries, but this journey, this one feels different, and they can feel it too. Among them is First Mate Samuel Briggs, a man of quiet confidence and steady hands. I've sailed with him for years, and there's no one I'd trust more at my side. He's perceptive, perhaps more than I'd like, and though he hasn't said a word, I suspect he knows there's more to this voyage than I've let on. Beside him is Jonas Murdoch, the cook, a grizzled old hand who spent more years at sea than on land. He's a bit of a superstitious soul, muttering about the fever whenever he thinks no one's listening. His hands shake slightly now as he prepares our meals, as if the thought of the fever reaching us out here haunts him more than he lets on. And then there's young William Carter, barely 17, eager and green, yet with a look in his eye that tells me he's here for more than the thrill of the sea. I've heard him ask the others in hushed tones about the fever, his voice tinged with the kind of fear only the young carry, fear of what he's left behind, of loved ones at home. He's brave, but his courage is the kind that has not yet been tested. In time, the sea will teach him its lessons, as it has taught all of us. Each man on board has heard whispers of our purpose, some say holds the answer, but they do not know the truth. I cannot risk telling them that we seek Saint Elara, the island of myth and shadow, or that I have stepped on its shores once before. No, for now, they must believe we sail for commerce, not for salvation. The sea stretches before us, endless and patient. We are but a few hours out, and already the shoreline has vanished behind a veil of fog. As I close this first entry, I find myself turning to face the horizon with a mixture of dread and hope. We are bound for the unknown, to face legends and memories that have haunted me for years. May the sea carry us swiftly, and may fortune favor our quest. Day 2. The sun has long dipped below the horizon, leaving only a faint line of twilight in the west. Night settles around us like a shroud, the stars beginning to prick through the darkness above. The sea is calm, a silent expanse, with only the soft creaking of the ship and the occasional whisper of wind to break the stillness. There is a peace here that I might have found comforting on another voyage, but tonight it feels different. A quiet that stirs memories better left undisturbed. Saint Elara. It's a name I've heard only in whispers and tales. A place spoken of as myth. A place I thought would haunt only my past. Yet here I am, with a ship full of men who trust me with their lives, bound for an island that exists only in the faintest corners of their imagination. They don't know the things I saw on that shore, the strange plants that seemed to pulse with their own light as dusk settled, or the odd hum that filled the air, a hum I could almost feel in my bones. I remembered the way those plants glowed, faintly green in the evening light, casting shadows that seemed to move and dance with the breeze. They looked almost alive, as though the land itself watched our every step. Back then, I told myself it was the fatigue, the delirium of survival after the wreck. But as we draw closer, I wonder if those memories were as real as the fear that clutches me now. Tonight, as the sea darkens, I notice a light in the distance, a faint, wavering glow just above the waterline, far off the port side. At first, I think it's nothing more than phosphorescence in the waves, but it doesn't fade, doesn't blink out as the ship moves forward. It's steady, unnatural. I watch it, unwilling to draw attention to it, but the men have seen it too. Samuel stands beside me, eyes narrowed as he watches the light with an unspoken question hanging between us. He's too seasoned to show fear, but I can see the flicker of doubt in his gaze. Jonas mutters a prayer under his breath, glancing at the light light as though it might be a bad omen, while young William stares, wide-eyed, gripping the railing as if to steady himself. They look to me for reassurance, but even I can feel the cold prickle along my spine, the echo of a memory I'd rather forget. I saw lights like this once before, just beyond the shores of St. Elara. We were stranded, hungry, clinging to whatever hope we could find, and in those dark hours, I remember a similar light flickering across the waves, beckoning us, calling in a language we could not understand. But none of us dared follow it. We stayed put, knowing that to stray beyond that shore was to tempt fate itself. As the light dances across the water tonight, I close my eyes, steadying my breath. I cannot let men see my unease, nor let them suspect the truth of our destination. I tell myself, it is only a trick of the sea, a common sight to seasoned sailors, nothing more. And yet, a part of me wonders if the island remembers me, if it knows I am coming back. The men watch me for answers, and I give them none. Only a quiet word of reassurance that all is well. But in this silent night, with the unknown stretching before us, and the faint light casting shadows on the water, I find myself questioning the wisdom of this journey. Whatever waits for us at St. Elara, I pray we have the strength to face it. For now, I close my log and turn my eyes to the horizon, searching for the faint line where the stars meet the sea, hoping it will lead us safely through the darkness. Morning should have brought clear skies and open water, but instead we find ourselves adrift in a world of ghostly white. A fog has come upon us without warning, thick as wool, swallowing the ship whole. It crept in silently at dawn, and now, hours later, it remains, wrapping around us like a shroud. The crew mutters their unease in hushed tones, their voices barely audible over the eerie silence that fills the air. The fog, it's unlike any I've seen in all my years at sea. It's dense and unnatural, as though conjured from some unseen hand. I recall a similar fog many, many years ago. During that first ill-fated journey to St. Elara, it was this same mist that greeted us as we drifted closer to that strange island, clinging to us like a warning, or perhaps an invitation. The memory stirs something deep within me, a sense of foreboding I cannot shake. I keep my expression steady for the men, but inside I feel as though the island itself is reaching out, calling me back, drawing us nearer with each passing moment, as if it knows I am returning, as if it has waited for me all these years. Samuel approaches, face set in a frown. His eyes narrowed against the pale haze. He's seen fog before, as we all have. But he senses something amiss, a feeling he won't speak aloud. The others look to me with questions in their eyes, but I can offer them no answer, only the calm words of a captain, the hollow reassurances of a man as much in the dark as they are. "Hold steady, men," I tell them, my voice steady but low. "Fog like this is common in these waters. It will lift soon enough." Yet, even as I say it, I feel the weight of a lie pressing against my words. This fog feels alive, a veil cast over us by some ancient hand, hiding the world beyond and trapping us in a timeless void. The men return to their tasks with reluctant nods, but I see the tension in their movements, the glances they exchange when they think I'm not looking. They sense the strangeness, the quiet that lies heavy on the air, pressing down upon us. Even Jonas, who usually hums a tune as he prepares the day's meal, stands silent in the galley, his hands shaking ever so slightly as he works. Only young William remains unfazed, his curiosity outweighing his fear. He watches the fog with wide eyes, as though it's a wondrous mystery rather than a thing to be feared. Perhaps, in his innocence, he does not sense what the rest of us do, the weight of something unseen watching from the mist, the feeling that this fog is not meant to guide us, but to bind us, keeping us from the safety of familiar waters. I retreat to my quarters, leaving Samuel to keep watch. The fog presses against the cabin windows, and I feel as though I'm drifting into a world that exists beyond time. Neither here nor there. I try to write, but the words come slowly, weighed down by the memories of that first journey. When I was a young midshipman, adrift near St. Elara, we encountered a fog just like this, rolling in from nowhere, thick and heavy, a veil over the waters. I remembered the way it seemed to breathe, pulsing with an unseen life, hiding shapes and shadows that played tricks on the mind. And when we finally escaped it, we found ourselves staring at the shores of St. Elara, as though the fog had delivered us right into its grasp. Now, as I sit here with a quill in hand, I feel that same dread creeping over me. We are headed back to that cursed island, and it seems the island has not forgotten. It is drawing us near, leading us through the mist, and I cannot shake the feeling that once we enter its domain, it may never let us leave. Outside, I hear the faint whispers of the crew, their voices barely piercing the thick blanket of fog. The silence between their words is heavy, filled with the tensions of men who have seen too much and understand too little. I must keep them calm, keep their fears at bay, yet I am plagued by the same questions, the same silent terror. The fog has bound us, and somewhere within it, of St. Elara, a call that I cannot ignore. I close this entry with a prayer on my lips, hoping that this journey will not be the death of us all. Day 4. The fog lifted by midday, yet its presence lingers in the minds of the men like a dark cloud. Though the sea is calm once more, an unease had settled over the crew. They speak in hushed voices, their gazes darting to me as if expecting answers I cannot give. I can feel their anxiety simmering beneath the surface, each man wondering if I am leading them into waters best left uncharted. There is a new tension on deck, a quiet suspicion that grows with each passing hour. Samuel, ever perceptive, has kept his questions to himself, but the others are not so restrained. Jonas, the old cook, cornered me this afternoon, his eyes shadowed with fear as he muttered about the fever back in Salem, questioning why we have ventured so far from familiar ports. He speaks of the cursed fog, how it appeared without warning, and now he's never seen anything quite like it in all his years at sea. He wonders aloud, though he knows better than to press, if I am hiding something from them. I told him what any captain would, that we set sail on a course to trade goods, and nothing more. But even as I spoke the words, they felt hollow. Another lie, meant more to ease my own conscience than to calm his fears. As night falls, the atmosphere grows heavier, thick with the scent of salt and something else, something darker, intangible yet unmistakable. There is a fear among them now, a gnawing dread that pulls at their minds, making them jump at shadows and turn their backs to the water. I can sense it as clearly as I sense the steady rocking of the ship, a discomfort that I know will only deepen the closer we come to St. Elara. The crew gathered below deck tonight, each man uneasy, their eyes hollow with exhaustion, as though they have been awake for days rather than hours. They do not tell me everything, but I know they are troubled by something beyond the fog, or the distant light we saw on the horizon. It was William who spoke up first, his voice barely a whisper, as he confessed to strange dreams. He dreamed of vast forests filled with plants that glowed in the twilight, casting long shadows that twisted and moved. He said he heard whispers, words he could not understand, yet felt compelled to follow, drawn toward something he couldn't name. As he spoke, the others nodded, each man's gaze dropping to the floor, as though the dreams had haunted them too. I, too, have been plagued by visions in my sleep. In my dreams, I see the shores of St. Elara, just as I remember them, unwreathed in a twilight glow that makes the shadows dance. The plants, tall and ghostly, seem to beckon, their strange light pulsing as though alive. And in the air, I hear whispers, a language I do not know, thoughts that seep deep into my mind and linger even as I wake. These dreams are not natural. They cling to the mind like a damp mist, heavy and unwelcome. I do not know if the men realize it, but I suspect these dreams are no mere figment of our imagination. The island has a hold on us, a grip that grows stronger with each passing night. I cannot let them see my unease, cannot let them know that I, too, am haunted by the memories that plague their sleep. But I see the fear in their eyes, and know that this journey weighs heavily upon them. I have resolved to keep my silence, yet I cannot shake the feeling that the island knows we are coming, that it reaches out to us through the fog and the shadows of our minds. I see it in the way the men move about the ship, their eyes downcast, their voices subdued. They are beginning to sense the truth, that this voyage is no ordinary journey, that we are bound for something darker and stranger than any of them could have imagined. Tonight, as I lie in my quarters, I hear the murmurs of the crew echoing through the wooden walls, whispers of fear and fragments of half-remembered dreams. There is a heaviness in the air, a presence that I cannot explain. It feels as though the island itself is calling to us, pulling us closer with invisible threads, binding us to a fate that none of us fully understand. As I close this entry with a troubled heart, uncertain of what lies ahead, Saint Elara waits for us, and I fear that whatever we find there will test the strength of every man on board. For now, I can only hope that my resolve will hold steady, that I can shield my men from the darkness that haunts my own thoughts. May we find the strength to face whatever awaits us in the shadows of that distant shore. Day 5. The days have worn long, and morale has dwindled to a shadow of what it once was. Whispers drift among the men, hushed conversations filled with doubt and unease. I see it in their eyes, a weariness deeper than fatigue, a weight they cannot shake. Some have taken to muttering about curses and specters, and there is an unspoken question hanging in the air, whether this journey will be our last. And then, as the fog began to thin this morning, a faint outline broke the horizon. There it was, a dark silhouette rising out of the mist, a jagged coastline, foreboding and silent. Saint Elara, the island that haunted my youth, the place that I vowed never to see again. Yet here it is, just as I remember it, unchanged, as if untouched by time. Even the shapes of the cliffs, the way the waves break upon the shore, it's all frozen, exactly as it was. The men watched in silence as the island emerged, their faces a blend of awe and fear. For many, this was the first confirmation that the tales of Saint Elara were more than rumor. The sight of it, stark and solid before them, turned that distant myth into an unsettling reality. I felt both fear and relief. Fear for what I know lies on that shore, and relief for the hope that the plant still grows there, hidden in the shadows of those dark trees. As we draw nearer, the island looms larger, its cliffs steep and weathered, its shoreline choked with strange vegetation. The forest, dense and dark, stretches out to greet us with a silence that is almost unnatural. There are no seabirds circling, no cries breaking the quiet, only the rhythmic crash of waves against the rocks. Even the wind seems to fall silent as we approach, as though it, too, knows better than to disturb the stillness of Saint Elara. I can feel the tension in the air as we approach the shore. The men casting wary glances toward the trees, their hands resting on whatever charms they carry for protection. Samuel keeps his gaze fixed on the horizon, his jaw clenched, while Jonas mutters a prayer under his breath, crossing himself as the ship glides closer. Young William, though still eager, has lost some of his earlier enthusiasm. He grips the rock with white-knuckled hands that he carries around his neck, his eyes wide with something between wonder and terror. As the island draws near, fragments of my past rise unhidden. I remember stumbling through that forest, the twisted trees casting long shadows in the waning light. I remember the strange plants, tall and ghostly, their faint glow illuminating the undergrowth in a way that felt more alive than any light. The herb we seek, it was there, hidden among the brambles and creeping vines, glowing softly as it held a heartbeat of its own. In my mind, I can still see the place where I found it, a clearing beneath the largest tree, its roost gnarled and twisted, reaching out like fingers clutching the earth. The plant grew there, its leaves faintly luminous, emitting a scent that was both sweet and bitter, like something from a half-remembered dream. It was a place of both beauty and dread, a sanctuary of life and death intertwined. Now, as we near the shore, I wonder if it remains untouched and waiting. The men begin their preparations, lowering the longboat, gathering supplies. I feel the weight of their stares, the questions they dare not ask, and I know they look to me for guidance. But even as I give them orders, my heart is heavy with uncertainty. The island has not changed, yet I am no longer the young midshipman who once stumbled upon its shores. I have seen too much, and the memories I carry feel heavier now, like a shackle binding me to this place. We will make landfall within the hour, and I can only hope that the island will allow us to leave again. I sense its presence in every creak of the ship, in the silent ripples of the water lapping against the hull. It is though the island itself watches us, waiting, as if aware of the purpose that brought us here. As I close this entry, I find myself whispering a silent prayer, not for myself, but for the men who have followed me here, each one trusting in my leadership, unaware of the full weight of what lies ahead. For the first time, I wonder if the cost of this journey will be more than any of us are prepared to pay. Saint Elara awaits, as it has always done, patient and still, and as we near the shore, I feel its silent promise, a promise of salvation, or perhaps of ruin. We set foot on the shores of St. Elara just after dawn. The sky, a pale, muted gray above us. The longboat carried us to land in silence, each man lost in his own thoughts, as though we were crossing into some forbidden realm. There is a stillness here, a quiet that presses down upon the soul, thick and unnatural, as though the island itself is holding its breath. The forest stands before us, dense and tangled, the trees twisted and gnarled, their trunks dark and weathered by time. Strange vines crawl over the undergrowth, creeping along the ground and twisting around the trunks like serpents coiled and waiting. The air is thick with an unearthly scent, tinged with something else, something faintly sweet, vaguely familiar. It is the scent of the herb, and I feel a pull toward it, a memory stirring deep within me, drawing me forward as though by instinct. I have chosen only a small party for this search. Samuel, ever my faithful first mate, Jonas, though reluctant, carrying supplies, and William, whose courage, though untested, shines in his eyes even now. They follow me in silence, casting glances at the strange flora that surrounds us. I can see the unease etched in their faces, the way their eyes dart to every shifting shadow. I understand their fear, for I feel it too, a sense that the island itself watches our every move. The silence is absolute. There are no birds here, no rustling of leaves, only the muffled sound of our footsteps as we push through the undergrowth. Even the usual sounds of the sea seem to fade, as though St. Elara exists in a world apart, untouched by the natural order. Shadows dance at the edges of our vision, shifting and flickering, always just beyond reach. I tell myself it is a trick of the mind, the lingering memories of this place clouding my senses. But a part of me feels as though those shadows are alive, moving with a purpose beyond our understanding. As we press deeper into the forest, the scent grows stronger, mingling with the rich, loamy smell of the earth. I begin to notice details I had forgotten. The way the trees seem to lean toward us, their branches stretched out like skeletal fingers, the ground just as I remembered it. We come upon a clearing, hidden deep within the forest, surrounded by towering trees that cast long, twisted shadows across the ground. There, at the center of the clearing, beneath a massive gnarled tree, lies the plant, the herb we have come to find. It grows in a small patch. It leaves a faint, ghostly green, shimmering with a light so delicate it seems almost otherworldly. The glow is soft, subtle, casting a faint radiance upon the ground around it, as if the plant holds a secret life of its own. As I kneel before it, reaching out a hand, a strange calm washes over me as my fingers brush its leaves. The scent rises, stronger now, a mix of sweetness and earth, medicinal yet comforting, as though it holds a promise of healing in its fragile stems. I find myself filled with a reverence I cannot explain, as though this plant is a gift, a relic from a time before men walked these shores. The men stand behind me, silent, their eyes wide as they take in the sight before them. I can see the relief in their faces, the glimmer of hope that perhaps this journey has not been in vain. But even as I reach for my knife to carefully cut the stems, a chill creeps down my spine, a feeling that we are not alone, that something hidden in the shadows is watching us, observing our every move. I pause, glancing around the clearing, but there is nothing, only the dense trees and the shifting shadows. Yet the feeling persists, an instinct that I cannot ignore. I hasten my movements, carefully gathering the herb and tucking it into the satchel Jonas holds open, each cut of the knife filled with urgency, as though time itself is pressing down upon us. The air grows colder as we finish, a sharpness to it that bites at the skin. Samuel looks at me, a question in his eyes, and I nod. Back to the boat, I say, my voice low, steady. We have what we came for, but I cannot shake the sense that the island still will not let us leave so easily. As we turn to leave, I cast one last glance at the clearing, at the strange glowing plants that sway ever so slightly, as though moved by a breath of wind we cannot feel. They seem to watch us, those faint lights pulsing with a rhythm almost like a heartbeat. I know I must turn away, yet I feel as though something here has marked us, a silent promise left unspoken. We walk in silence, the shadows closing in around us as we retrace our steps to the shore. The scent of the herb lingers in the air, mingling with the salt of the sea, and I feel the weight of the island pressing down upon me, heavy and foreboding. This place, this cursed land, has allowed us to take what we needed, but I cannot shake the feeling that it had exacted a price we have yet to understand. We reach the boat and push off, the quiet grip of the island releasing us as the water swallows our oars, and as the shoreline fades into the mist behind us, I close my eyes, hoping that the Saint Elara. The island loomed in the distance, dark and unyielding, watching us as we made our retreat. I felt it, an unnatural pull, as if something there had claimed a piece of me, refusing to let go. My hands trembled as I took the helm, my gaze lingering on the fading outline of those cliffs, the twisted trees, the shore where we had stood mere hours before. Part of me wanted to turn back, though I could not say why. And as I looked upon that cursed land one last time, I felt as though I was leaving behind something more than just memories. A part of my own spirit, perhaps, lost in that strange, silent forest. The crew busied themselves with preparations for departure, each man eager to put distance between himself and the island. Jonas avoided my gaze as he stowed the herbs in the safest part of the ship, muttering a prayer under his breath, his hands shaking as he secured the precious cargo. Samuel, ever vigilant, cast nervous glances at the horizon, his jaw set, but his eyes betraying the same unease I felt. Even young William, who had once looked upon this journey with wonder, now held a wary silence, his face pale as he stole glances back at the shore. As we sailed away, the first sign came quickly, a sudden, sharp crack of thunder. Though the sky above us had been clear only moments before, dark clouds gathered with unnatural speed, swirling overhead like an angry bruise, the colors churning and shifting as if alive. The sea, calm and steady a moment prior, began to churn beneath us, the waves rising and falling in jagged peaks, tossing the ship as though we were nothing more than driftwood. The compass at the helm spun wildly, its needle erratic, pointing in every direction but north. I watched it in silence, feeling a chill creep up my spine as the storm closed in around us. It was as though St. Elara itself was reaching out, clawing at us, refusing to let us escape its grasp. I gripped the wheel tightly, struggling to keep the ship steady. But the wind howled like a living thing, tearing at the sails and whipping through the rigging with a fury that felt almost personal. And then came the birds. They appeared out of the storm, dark shapes circling overhead, moving with strange, unnatural patterns. They swooped low, their cries echoing through the wind, piercing and shrill, as though warning us away from something unseen. They circled the ship, darting in and out of the clouds, their wings beating in a rhythm that seemed to match the pulsing light of the herbs below deck. It was a sight both mesmerizing and deeply unsettling, a reminder that we were still under the island's watchful gaze. The men were shaken, their faces pale as they watched the birds, clutching charms and muttering prayers to ward off the ill omens that had begun to plague our journey. I tried to reassure them, to tell them that the storm would pass, that we would find our way once more, but even I felt the doubt gnawing at my mind. This was no ordinary storm, no simple turn of bad weather. This was a warning, a reminder reminder of the price we would pay for trespassing upon those forbidden shores. The air grew thick, heavy with an energy that seemed to hum beneath the surface, filling the space around us with a sensation I could not name. I felt it in my bones, a tension that pulled at me, a call that whispered just beyond the edge of hearing. I had left the island, yet it had not left me. Its presence lingered, woven into the very fabric of the air, the sea, the storm. I wondered, as I gripped the wheel and cast my gaze back toward that dark, distant shore, if we had truly left it at all. I fear now that we have been marked, each of us bound to that place in ways we cannot yet understand. The herb is in our possession, but I wonder if it will bring salvation or ruin, if its glow is a blessing or a curse brought upon us by the island's silent wrath. As I write this, the storm rages around us, the compass still spinning, the ship groaning under the strain of forces beyond our control. In my heart, I know we have taken something we were never meant to touch, and I cannot shake the feeling that the island will call us back, if not in body, then in spirit. I close this entry with a heavy heart, wondering if we will ever truly leave St. Elara behind, or if it will haunt us, a shadow that follows us across the sea, binding us to a fate we can neither escape nor understand. The sea churns, the storm howls, and St. Elara fades into the mist, yet its memory lingers, a wound that will not heal. I fear we are destined to carry this burden back to Salem, an invisible mark upon our souls, one that no man can erase. Day 8. It has been days since we left the shores of St. Elara, yet the memory of that cursed island clings to me like a shadow, haunting my every thought. The storm has passed, the birds have scattered, and the sea has returned to its familiar rhythm, but I feel no relief. The calm around us is hollow, a stillness that does not soothe, but unsettles, as though the sea itself is waiting, watching to see what we have brought into its depths. The herb lies below deck, carefully wrapped and hidden from sight, its faint glow seeping through the cloth like a heartbeat in the darkness. Jonas tends to it with carefulness, though I see the worry in his eyes, the fear that it might be more than just a plant. Samuel keeps a wary distance, and even young William, once so eager and fearless, has grown quiet, avoiding the cargo hold as though the herb holds a curse he cannot name. I do not blame them. I, too, feel the weight of it, as though we have brought back something we were never meant to touch. I find myself torn between hope and dread. We set out with a purpose, a mission to save Salem from the fever that has ravaged it, and I would be lying if I said that hope does not burn within me still. Perhaps this plant, this herb of St. Elara, will be the cure we seek. Perhaps it will bring an end to the suffering, a balm for the wounds that have torn through my town and my people. And yet, the memory of that island lingers, its shadows wrapping around the heart like tendrils of the mist, whispering doubts I cannot silence. There is a part of me that wonders if we have not escaped the island at all, if some piece of it has followed us, an invisible tether that binds us to its cursed shores. I see it in the way the men move, their shoulders hunched, their gazes darting to the horizon as though expecting to see that dark shape reappear in the distance. I feel it in the air, a chill that has not left us since we set sail. I fear that, in taking the herb, we have brought the island's wrath upon ourselves, and that it waits, patient and unseen, for the moment to exact its price. I try to imagine our return, the sight of Salem's shores rising on the horizon, the faces of those we left behind, hopeful, expectant. But even in my mind's eye, the image is tinged with darkness, as though a cloud hangs over it, unseen yet ever present. I wonder if the people of Salem will look upon us and see men who have returned from the brink, or if they will see something else, something tainted by our journey, marked by the shadows of Saint Elara. In my heart, I know that the true nature of this plant remains a mystery. It may bring salvation, or it may bring ruin. Perhaps it will cure the fever, and the whispers of Saint Elara will fade, nothing more than a dark memory. But perhaps, too, it will unleash something we do not understand, a force as old and unyielding as the island itself. I cannot say which fate awaits us, and the uncertainty gnaws at me, a silent dread that I cannot shake. As I close this final entry, I am left with a sense of both hope and fear, a belief that we have done what we must, yet a haunting doubt that we may have gone too far. I leave this log as a record, a testament to our journey, for those who may one day find it. If we are to return safely, may it serve as a reminder of the price of seeking the unknown. And if we are to be lost, may it be a warning, a voice carried on the waves to those who would dare follow in our footsteps. The sea stretches before us, vast and indifferent, and the horizon remains empty, no sign of the island that once loomed so close. Yet, even as I look upon the calm waters, I feel Saint Elara's presence lingering, a shadow over my thoughts, a weight I will carry for the rest of my days. I do not know what awaits us in Salem. I do not know if we have found salvation or ruin. But I do know this: the island has left its mark, etched upon my soul like a scar, and I will carry its memory as long as I live. May the sea be kind, and may whatever fate we have set in motion find mercy for us all. Captain Elias Thatcher.